Good evening, everyone. Michael here, and welcome back to the channel. It is Friday, the 23rd of February, 2024, and I hope you're all well and safe wherever you may be around the world. I wish I could say the same for myself, but unfortunately I did injure my tailbone last week, and I am working my best to get through it, but it has been some of the most excruciating pain that I've ever been in. It is being managed, but sometimes I don't think it's being managed quite enough, so I do apologize in advance for that particular issue that I'm dealing with. So I am moving a little bit slower, but that is not going to stop the project. It's gotta get done very, very soon. I've got a deadline that I need to meet. So again, welcome everyone. The plan for this evening, as we sort of discussed at the end of the last episode, is dealing with the rear display. Since the cabin is now several inches narrower, it's no longer fitting our display squarely, which is making utilizing some brackets kind of difficult, because the display is now wider than the cabin. So I've done some thinking over the past couple of days, and I think what I'm going to end up doing is just adding some 2x2s to the end of our cabin here, just right here on the corners, and that's going to effectively give us the extra 3 inches that we need to at least keep the display square, so that I don't have any overhang past the cabin. In doing that, my hope is that I will be able to use these 4-inch square or 4-inch angle brackets to sort of they'll sort of screw in, sideways here, but hold the display up in place, because we have our crossboard here. We know it's not going down anywhere. We just need to make sure that it's not going to fall backwards. We know it's not going to go forward because it's right up against our fuselage. This is essentially going to be our back window. So that is the plan. In order to do that, and in order to get X-Plane to render on all 4 of those displays, which I'm going to talk about the displays here individually momentarily, all of that needs to happen on one graphics card. And up until now, I've been using the 3090 to do the front display and the sides, as well as our new GT1030. And it's worked out well so far, but now we're adding that 4th display back into the mix, and I didn't have any other video output to run the GT1030, which for the time being is running on the X-Plane machine. So I looked into one of these deals. This is a USB 3.0 to 2 HDMI converter. I tried this offline on the X-Plane machine that it needs to be going on, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because the display did not show up in my NVIDIA control panel. Not that I needed to control it, it just wasn't even seen by the control panel. It relied on just a driver display link graphics to work, so it wasn't necessarily what I would say native to my version of Windows that I was running, because I had to download a driver. But what I noticed is that when I attempted to use it and drag whatever window over to it, it really bogged my system down, my X-Plane computer. And I don't know if it was because we're utilizing a lot more USB power through this thing, and it was taking power from the board elsewhere. I don't know. The only thing I know is that when I attempted to drag a window over to the display connected to this thing, it seemed like my keyboard was not responsive as well. My mouse wasn't moving properly. Anything that was connected to a USB port seemed to just um, uh, not work as well as I would expect it to work. And I can only attribute it to this thing because without it plugged in, everything working like I would expect it to. And I don't know if that's just me and my system and whatever the case may be. I didn't like it. So I went ahead and ordered the GT1030. It's relatively inexpensive for what it is. It's PCI Express, so it is going to go inside of the computer. It gives me one DVI and one HDMI. And honestly, all I need is the HDMI. I went with this one because I have this exact same card in the X-Plane Slave PC, which is running all those Air Manager monitors, and I haven't had an issue with it. It is on the NVIDIA platform and in the NVIDIA family, so it is going to show up in my NVIDIA control panel and give me a lot more flexibility as far as display configuration goes. Because if NVIDIA control panel cannot see that display, then I have a hard time blending them all together. So, that being said, without further ado, what I want to do first is go ahead and get this display mounted up, and get this plugged in and ready to wire in to our video card. So let's go ahead and do that. I do have these 2x2s already measured and cut for this. I also went and picked up 2.5-inch screws. So whereas previously I was using 2-inch screws to not go all the way through, or technically 1.5 by 1.5 inch, 3-inch screws would have just barely poked through if I stopped right at the very end, and I generally don't do that because I like to countersink them, which would they'd poke all the way through of 3 inches of material. But 2.5-inch screws should give me enough to get through both pieces of material, countersink the end, but still not protrude through the interior. And that's sort of the plan. So, that being said, let's ensure that we have the appropriate bit. It's a T25. It's a T20. Let me go grab a T25. I do want to thank everyone for coming in and hanging out today. I hope your week has fared you well. You've been having mostly somewhat success finagling through the workday. But injuring your tailbone is not an activity that I recommend to anyone. So, my thought process, and I say this because we never actually have a plan until we do it, is to just kind of get this up in place here, and we'll screw it into the side. B Payne, you have your commercial multi tomorrow. Well, good luck. I highly doubt you'll need it, but good luck. That's awesome. I will be wishing you all the best. I'm just going to try and get this started and then use a clamp. Okay. Then I want to grab one of these wood clamps and clamp it together. Duffy Fluffy, welcome on in, my friend. Other than being a bit sore, I'm doing well. Doing well. How are you over there? Am I making this a project for YouTube as well? Well, I have been sending everything over to YouTube. So there is, all the videos we do here on Twitch, they do get their way over there. Glad to hear that things over in Sweden are going well for you, Duffy Fluffy. Okay. Then I'm just going to move the clamp down. Let's go ahead and loosen this screw so that we can finish clamping. Sure it's even, because remember, we're only putting this board on for an additional support for the rear display. That feels good. I don't really need to put a clamp there. Hey, I appreciate it. Although sometimes the arrow is pointing the wrong way. Sometimes this way is better. I think our battery's getting ready to go. So with two of these boards, one on each side, I'm going to measure it here when we're done. Well, we might have to clamp that top one. Let's get this middle one in, and we might have to pull this top one out and redo it. We already kind of have an interior panel here, so we need to be real careful how we go about clamping this. We don't want to do much cosmetic damage to our interior panel. Alright, I'm going to get this bottom one in, and then we'll redo that top one. Let me go grab another battery, Duffy Fluffy. I'll be right back. Tabletop Android, welcome in. Welcome on in if you've just recently joined. Again, I do apologize for my slow moving. I really loved roller skating with the kids. I haven't had so much fun in such a long time. Falling down to avoid a gaggle of kindergartners roller skating the opposite way. I didn't enjoy that so much, nor the aftermath that I'm feeling currently. No. We're trying our best to push through, moving a little bit slow, 'tis all. So I appreciate your patience. You know, we would need some sizable wings to get some actual lift with the weight of this thing. I'm not gonna lie. Component per component, I can guarantee is heavier. I can almost guarantee it. So we would need quite the wingspan to actually generate lift if we had the forward thrust to do so. Okay, let's go ahead and get an overall width after I redo this top screw here. Okay. Because we want to ensure that. Okay, so we're exactly 48 inches wide, which would make sense. Because we just added 1.5 inches to each side, which we already had an exterior dimension of 45 inches. If I remember right, this LG 55-inch television was right about 48 inches. Okay, so we're right around 48.5 inches. So that's going to give us roughly 1/4 inch of overhang on either side if measurements are right and we're centered and we're square. There's a very good chance that these boards could be warped. I could set it up there and the edges may not be flush at all. Okay. Again, we're going to use these 4-inch corner braces, L brackets. And again, the theory is to just, it would get screwed in here, screwed into the side this way, and then keep the display from falling back. Which, because of the spacing of the holes, it would appear we're probably going to have to drill a hole in the middle of one side to capture our cockpit properly. If we were to go all the way to this first hole, it's not going to give us enough room for the display. And unfortunately, the last hole here yields us too much room. So, what I'm going to do is, all of these seem to have a brand name just kind of etched right in the middle. That is going to be my mark for drilling on all of them. And then that's pretty much right in the middle here. And then what that's going to do, hopefully, and I'm only eyeballing this because I only want to lift this thing up once. But if that's in the middle, that definitely gives me enough wiggle room to bring it up tight, but still have enough room to drill or screw into our wooden frame there. So what we're gonna do is I have this scrap board here. That I've been using as a background. I mean the TV probably only weighs 18 pounds. If that, really. 20 pounds. I mean honestly it doesn't weigh much for a television. That size television, 10 years prior to when that was manufactured, and that one itself in and of itself is pretty old. This one's the model year of this one is 2007. I'll discuss it in a minute because one of my YouTube viewers did have questions about the displays that I use. So I will take the time to discuss those because we are going to have to calibrate this display into the mix anyway. But we are going to use this scrap piece of wood here, and we're going to just kind of stick this on top of this one here on the floor. And somewhere like there. I'm gonna go grab some gloves because drilling and metal shavings, just want to use adequate protection. For those of you wondering, my eyewear is ANS size E87 approved, so I don't have to worry about eyewear, although I do technically would have side shields on. That noise is my drill bit getting extremely hot, and I probably should go get that spray. Be right back. This is just a general purpose aerosol lubricant. Hello. Hello. Uh-oh. Is that better? Audio working now? That might have been me accidentally bumping something. I do apologize. Hopefully it didn't die for long. But as I was saying, you need to be very careful when drilling through metal like this, because it could get very close to the end and possibly catch itself on the way through and try to rip it out of your hand. So, you know, you really need to be careful. Even clamp it down to the board that you're drilling into as a backer, just to kind of help. But run your drill bit through, then that gives me a relatively small hole. And then what that's going to do is allow me to hit the area that I need to hit to secure the bracket as a backing to our display. So, that being said, and having known that that was going to need to be happening, I went ahead and took the liberty of doing the rest of them. And I used that same center hole marking as a guide so that all of the holes hit the same area there. You know, they might make these brackets and have multiple holes along the way. That could be beneficial. But the hardware store I happened to pick these up at, this is what I happened to see. And I am hoping that best case scenario is to maybe even use the outer hole on this one to possibly capture, you know, where the leg would go. I'm not sure if that would fit our overall profile. It might. We'll find out when we get it up there. So, I don't know currently. Well, this is all, I guess, one project, Duffy Fluffy. I've been kind of breaking it down into pieces and parts as much as I can. But this one has been my most vested interest, I guess. So, it will be different when it's all said and done, different looking, a different flying experience. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get the display up here. I'm going to get one of these brackets ready. I'll show you here in just a second, Duffy Fluffy. I'll go over that again. Okay. I'm using the 2-inch screws here, at least for now, to go into the metal bracket and then into our wood here. So let's make sure. Okay, so we can get through. Wanted to make sure that my screw would actually get through the hole. It's a little bit tight, so you're almost screwing through the first hole. That'll work out alright though, at least for now. I'm just going to put that up there, set that up there for now. Make sure that we are orienting our display correctly and that we set the bottom on the bottom. The bottom of our display has the control panel on it, to which we did actually notch out. And that's another thing I wanted to do while this display is down. I realized that in our last part, when we were working on our interior panels, that I cut my back panel just a little bit too short on the sides. Because normally what I would do is fold the rough cut in slightly, and then just go through with the stapler and just staple all the seams together so it doesn't look as rough. But when I made my cuts, I realized now that I cut it the exact width instead of giving me some overhang. So I'm wondering if I just rotate the thing 90 degrees, if that will give me enough length still to go to the floor while keeping my center intact and give me enough to fold over. Almost. So what I could do is just bring it down one way just a little bit more. Yeah, that's what I could do. What I'm getting at is, I've got this rough cut where I cut the vinyl. If I fold it over in and of itself, because the back lower panel is not going to be the fancy padded hardboard that we constructed for the sides, because I want this to be flexible. The reason I want this to be flexible is because when I put the second set of seats in here, despite the fact that they'll be fixed, if the kids decide to start swinging their legs or getting anxious, I want to have that room in there for them to do so. That's kind of the theory, folding it in and of itself, and then actually just using a hand stapler and stapling it. If you know a seamstress or something, you can get it sewed up, great. Just stapling everything has worked out this far, for me anyway. So, what I'm going to do is figure out how much I need to bring in on each side. And I'm folding it on the inside so that the rough edge is on the inside, so that I have some overhang. That way we don't have that light seepage when we're flying our plane. And so it looks like we're gonna have plenty. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kinda, now that I have it kinda measured out this way and have our edges folded in, what I'm gonna do is maneuver it to where my longer edge is on the inside of the aircraft. That way it's coming down and it's meeting the carpet. Let's see if I can actually get a better picture of this here. Let's see. Okay. We can try that maybe. And then, so what I want to do is bring it down to where my edge is covering this beam here. And then I'm probably going to even fold this edge up in so that it's kind of finished, kind of like that. So, looks like we need to bring those bottom corners out. Duffy Fluffy, the real plane does have a back window, yes. At least the 172 I fly does. I think it might be easier to do the sides and then do the bottom instead of trying to do it all at once. So I know that I'm going to want that much material. So probably right around there would be my guess. We can bring some more material out and kind of taper it, make it wider at the bottom. If we wanted to get creative, maybe. Alright, for now I'm just going to put a staple in this corner. It's just a regular swing line office staple. It's nothing fancy. Regular paper stapler. I'm just going to use it to hold this corner. That's all I did is put one staple in that corner. Right here with my fancy swing line. I want to do the same thing over here. At least for now. I'm kind of rolling my folded edge in, the edge that's folded inside out slightly, and that's kind of giving me a taper coming down. Just to, again, this is simply to help with light blockage and seepage. I'm just going to put a staple in there. And then we'll come down here. Now that we have our width, now let's go ahead and come up. The shorter that you fold the shorter you make your fold down here at the bottom, and the more finished material you're going to have on the inside there. And I'm not making it perfect by any means, because this is something that we're not necessarily going to see at the end of the day once we put our exterior shell on. I'm starting at the corners and working inward, which is kind of backwards as to how I put the interior panels together. I think that's just to help me hold the material together as I'm moving along. Now I'll go in the middle and work my way towards the edge. Alright, we're going to bring this in. And we're going to just kind of tuck this. Just kind of like so. And in time it'll kind of take shape. But that's the theory. And then we have this relief here that's cutting our cross support for access to our control panel. Okay, that being said, I need to take a couple moment break, go check on the kids, and I'll be right back with you all. Okay, I do want to thank everyone for their patience. The rear display. The rear display. And while I want to sit here, I want to bring up my screen and let's talk about the displays that I personally use, because this question did come up with on the YouTube channel by one of the YouTube viewers. So bear with me. Let me go to this big display capture here. And we're going to start with the 32-inch side windows. When I first started building this, the previous version of this, it was close to 10 years ago now. I went to Micro Center then and told them what I wanted to do, and told them, this is what I want to be able to see, from this position. So they recommended what was known as IPS monitors. That's the panel technology. It's essentially almost 180-degree viewing angle, in each direction. So whether you're looking above it or looking from below it, or left to right, whatever the case may have been, you're not going to lose any sort of picture quality depending on the viewing angle. So I felt like that was important with what I wanted to do. It's a LED. They're LED monitors, 60 hertz, 1080p, and I run them at 1080 in X-Plane. All of the displays are 60 hertz, and I'll tell you why all of the displays are 60 hertz. The rear display, again, this one is very, very old. I think this one came out in 2007. Now I'm curious for myself. I know I saw it on this label. Correction, 2017. So not as old as I thought it was, but still relatively old. 6 years, almost 7 years old. Also a 1080p, only 1080p. It's 55-inch LED. This is what our rear window is. The important part is it's also 60 hertz, which it states somewhere. It states it. All specs. Yep, 60 hertz. Okay. The reason why 60 hertz refresh rate is important for me is because I lock my FPS at 30. So when it takes things a bit longer to get to the glass, and in my case it does because we're rendering an almost 8K, then limiting your frame rate can help with overall performance. Now, the human eye can't really distinguish between 30 FPS and 60 FPS. Your camera can, which is why when I stream, I'm either streaming in 30 FPS or 60 FPS. Because we try to do that happy medium at 45, we get a bunch of diagonal lines because we're no longer streaming in time with our FPS output. So, by limiting my FPS externally in NVIDIA control panel, okay, which is another reason why I was very disappointed that this thing here didn't show up in my NVIDIA control panel. By limiting that FPS, for me it's a performance gain, not a performance loss. While I understand the value of increased FPS, especially if you're doing a lot of cinematography and that sort of thing, for what I do and for what the camera's like, I'm just happy with 30, and that goes back to utilizing, taking advantage of the technology that was available at the time. 120 hertz was kind of barely a thing when I first started looking into displays, 10 years ago. LEDs in and of itself, as far as display goes, were still astronomically priced. So it's made, time has made the logistics of building a flight simulator a lot easier for a lot more people. Advances in joystick technology, and now you got Arduino and all these mega boards. It has really kind of made it easy for anybody to build, whatever sort of cockpit they want to, as long as they want to do it. So, back to the displays. Let's see. The front display is a relatively inexpensive 4K display that I picked up at Walmart, manufactured by a Chinese company, most likely, called Hisense. Roku Smart TV 4K. Refresh rate 60 hertz. So it's very important, especially for a setup like this. More so for if you want to share, your experience with it and provide a good viewing experience for people watching. Refresh rate is key, I think, when it comes to that sort of thing. And these are things that you wouldn't notice if I was running X-Plane on a single monitor and streaming from that same computer. These are things that are noticeable when you've got a live action camera that's tuned to a specific frequency, and it's actively streaming your displays, and if they're not all timed properly, it will not look good. So that's very important. I don't know anything about the 120 hertz technology other than it sounds like a quicker refresh rate, quicker timing to get things back and forth. If I were to increase to 120 megahertz around all displays, that would probably be not very cost effective, but would I actually lose performance because instead of 60 it's now running at 120? That's stuff that I don't quite have an understanding of. And I probably should do some research on that for my own curiosity. But personally, they're just LED displays, 60 hertz. I run 4K on the front and 1080 all the way around, and I render X-Plane that exact same way, 4K in the front and 1080 all the way around. So we're just shy of 8K, which is not necessarily my CPU or GPU limitation. It's definitely a CPU bottleneck in this instance. So that being said, let's go ahead and get this display up there and discuss power options and that sort of thing. Alright, let me make sure that my screw gun is up there and ready, and it is. And right now I'm just kind of feeling the edges to make sure we're feel relatively close. I think that'll work out just fine. Okay, let's go ahead and put one right about here. Looks good. And then let's see. What did I do with them other ones? Alright, I found the rest of them. Let's go ahead and get one on the top on this other side. And that should hold it in place, and then we'll look at the bottom. Okay, so it looks like on each side, if I were to bring them both tight, it would want to bend those brackets, which I don't necessarily like. So I'm looking at, and just coincidentally, the hardware package that came with the TV stand that we're using for the front display came with some spacers that I'm not using. So I think what I want to do is we'll take these out. This will work out great. It came with 4. And what I want to do is I want to put these in between this bracket and the wood. So the screw is going to go through the bracket and then through this spacer and then into our frame. Yeah. Okay, so it's essentially going to go like this. Then as we tighten it down, this spacer will tighten up against our wooden frame. That should be good. And that would be equidistant on both sides. Okay, and then I just want to do the same thing over here. There we go. That'll work. Yeah, that'll work. Then what I'd like to do is take a look here. And if we line that up with that first screw, and it's not going to work in our favor, we'd have to just drill a new hole, and we're not going to worry about doing that. So I'm just going to utilize the same concept. We're going to go in from the side, use the spacer, and then go into the wood. And in this case, I'm just going to go in between because I know that the TV legs would go here, so I'm sure this is a structural part of the television. I'm just going to hold it there, and I'm going to screw our bracket in. And then in this method, our display is not going to go down or forward. There is a bit of thickness on the bezel, so the LCD or the LEDs, the screen part, it's not really making contact with our wooden frame. It's just up against the black bezel, so I'm not too concerned about that per se. Do I need to come upstairs? Okay. So let's put this last one in. Alright. Good to go there. Power cord is right here. It gives us this convenient 90-degree angle adapter power cord. But the problem is coming up short on length to plug it in anywhere that would make sense. So I'm going to use this standard household issued 10-foot extension cord. And this is the only thing I'm going to plug into this extension cord is this display. Plug it in here. And then I'm going to feed this underneath the entire thing. And if I feed it, I mean I'm just going to kind of set it down and work it through because I'm not laying on the floor. But I'm just going to run it underneath the frame and plug it into the outlet up front there. Let me go ahead and pull all the slack in. When I'm feeling better, I'm likely going to go under here and attach the wire somehow. But for now, we're just going to run it under the platform and plug it in. Does look like it has power. Okay. I guess we're going to be installing a video card next. So let's go ahead. We are going to come in here and completely turn off our X-Plane computer and shut it down. Nerd with Wings, welcome in. It's going pretty well, I think. We just finished setting our rear display in place. That screen flashing is probably a result of the GoPro webcam software that's kind of lacking support for being a webcam. It only seems to happen with the GoPro as a webcam. So that's the only thing I can think, is that their processing software just is not the greatest. Alright, so we do have our computer shut down. Let me go ahead and power down that front display. And then I will unhook the computer and bring it over here. We'll open the case up and get this video card installed. I'll go ahead and unbox this real quickly while I'm thinking about it. This one came from Amazon. Surprisingly, it came shipped in this box. I was expecting a bit different packaging, but we do have the video card in here. It does come with 2 different size of back plates, depending on the different size tower that you're using. But it does look small enough to fit in there, so it shouldn't be an issue. Okay. Alright, let me go and grab that computer, and I'll bring it over here, and we'll open it up, and try and fit that video card in there, and hopefully it'll fit in there. I think it's going to be easier for me to just grab the computer and bring it over here as opposed to trying to drag the camera over there. I'm going to turn the front display off completely. Then I'm going to turn the big power switch off on the back of the power supply for the X-Plane computer. You'd be surprised how quickly these things collect dust. I just blew this thing out like a month ago. Let me see if I can find something to sit this on so you guys can get a view. I might just have to tilt the camera down. Because I think I'm afraid if I set it up on the desk, it's gonna be too close. Okay, I have an idea. Bear with me one moment. watch this not do at all like I expect it to. And then I end up creating a TikTok video. Oh, it'll be fine. It'll stay like that till it falls. This is what drives my X-Plane setup. And it looks like my video card cooler fell off. Of course, I just have it sitting on there. Yep, it went smooth enough, Duffy Fluffy. We did get it handled. Let's see. Trying to figure out where that extra port is. I don't think that's... Okay, that is PCI Express down there. Okay. Yep, it'll stay like that till it falls, it's fine. Okay, has a little teeny tiny fan on it. Is it cute? This is my X-Plane PC. Yes, it is, Duffy Fluffy. So if I put it in that one there, it's going to interfere with my heat sink thing for the 3090. So we'll put it, I'm going to install it in this lowest PCI Express port on my board here, because I've got a support for the 3090 there that takes up quite a bit of space. A screwdriver might be a bit too big. Yeah. Oh. And of course that thumb screw is a little too tight for me to get out with my thumb right now. So I'm looking for a Phillips hand Phillip. Alright, I'm going to take that screw out, and then there's this little protector thingy.
Have you seen Evie's code to a tablet?
Have I seen her cord?
To a tablet.
I have not, bub.
Why?
Why haven't I?
No. Because she needs to charge a tablet.
If it's not where she left it, then I don't know where it is, bub.
Okay. What are you doing?
Working on the computer.
Oh, what computer?
The X-plane computer. What are you doing?
What's an X-plane?
You know what an X-plane is. That's what we fly.
Oh, I'm just playing with my airplane.
Okay. Where'd you get that propeller?
Look.
Very good.
It's like a propeller. Look. You take it off, it's a propeller. Pillow.
Propeller.
Propeller.
Good job.
But it's just a stick and a little circle down here. And you just put it right there. And it just flies. But it does actually go down. But if there's a fan and it's going,
Yeah.
going in circles, it will stay up in there till the fan stops and it will go drop down and. But
Can Papa see it?
Huh?
So if it's spinning like this, okay, what happens?
it doesn't do anything
Why not? What do you mean it doesn't do anything?
because it can't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, unless it's really oily, windy.
Does this look like an airplane propeller?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe I think I'm getting smart.
Okay. So if an airplane propeller doesn't have an engine that moves the wheels, what moves it? The propeller, right? Okay. So
I can add those two wings in the propeller and it'll go. But that has to wait until it's really windy.
so that's your propeller,
Mhm.
and your plane goes up, and your plane starts climbing and climbing. Okay. Can your plane now be a helicopter?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because it doesn't have anything on the back. I mean, you could make a system of you.
Want to help me pour this stuff in the pages?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Alright.
It could be a system where you just upgrade your truck, where you add a button
Add a button.
that makes it go into like transformation, into like transforming monster truck, helicopter, airplane.
One of those, huh?
Which no one has enough money to buy all those parts. Because I don't even think they even make them.
Point is, if we're not careful, our airplane can very easily become an unstable helicopter.
And what I learned about helicopter propellers like these, if they're plastic and you have like some wings that you can like just go.
Yeah.
You can actually make a moving helicopter.
Alright.
Look.
Now go do what you're asked. Okay, so we have this little dust protector in the back of our rig here that covers up essentially all the expansion slots that are not in use. And because of this massive support arm sitting underneath the RTX 3090, we're going to just utilize the most lowest PCI Express port slot for our little video card here. Okay. It'll automatically pop in the back once you're seated. But one thing I'm noticing, there it is. I had to get that bracket behind the support arm for the RTX. It wasn't lining up in front of it. So we're going to take our thumb screw that we originally took out and put it back in to hold our new video card in place. going to slightly snug up that RTX 3090 bracket. Okay. Then it gives us an HDMI port and a DVI port. And for now, I'm just going to unplug, or get a little protector cap in it. I'm just going to take the one out of the HDMI. We'll leave the DVI covered up. This here, again, is just a heat sink. All I do is I sit it on top of my RTX 3090 plate for no reason other than it just makes me feel better. That's all. It makes me feel better. I mean, I'm sure, it gets a little warm, so I know it's doing something. It's dissipating some heat, I'm sure. And I got it kind of right in flow, in the airflow. But I wasn't instructed to do it. Don't worry if you're not doing something like that. If you're water cooling your 3090, more power to you. Yeah. But I don't ask a lot of it either, because I do limit it at 30. So, but that's essentially it. So I'm going to actually get this back over there, and then I'll put that cooler back in place and the side cover on. Yeah, and I probably should take it out and blow it off real quick. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. I'll dial the air compressor way down. May use a little bit of air to go blow this out. Just because it is a bit dusty and I have the cover open. I'm going to take this board back out for now. Looks good. Alright, yeah, Duffy Fluffy does bring up a valid point. It does look a bit dusty. So I am going to take this out into the garage just real quick and blow some of the dust out of here. I'm not going to drag the camera all the way out there, but give me just a couple minutes. And I will be right back. is a bit better. I'm not going to plug anything into the 1030 just yet until we get the computer started up and make sure the driver gets, well, make sure the new hardware gets recognized because the NVIDIA driver is already installed. And once we confirm that, then we'll go ahead and connect our 650 to that new 1030. Because when I first power up, we're going to now have this rear display plugged into where the 650 was. So my hope is that, once we fire this up, I'll have Windows background image on all 4 displays, which are going to be plugged into the 3090. So let me get this back over there and in place. Actually, before we do that, because I need to take another couple minutes and stay seated still. Gonna make a label to go onto our HDMI cable that gets plugged into our video card. That way we know if we have to diagnose something, which cable is going to which display. And we're just going to call this back window. We're going to make it print small. Right, back window. Kind of hard to see. It says back window. We'll go ahead and apply this. Yeah, kind of right about here. I'm just going to put it on and fold it in half on each other. I'm going to put it on the right way. That way when I'm looking at it, I can read it. Just going to fold it in half upon itself. That way when this is plugged into the video card, I'll know that this is going to the back window. Alright, so we have power already ran under there. I'm going to run this HDMI cable under there as well. We'll get it plugged in. Plug it into the ARC port if you're using it for a computer. I don't know why. It's something that I read and it seems to work. Because there's also an HDMI 2 in the back. But I plugged into HDMI 1 labeled ARC. And we're going to run this up there to the front. Alright, let's get this computer over there and get everything plugged in and get it powered up, and then we'll head inside the cabin and get some work done in there. appreciate everyone's patience. It took me a couple minutes longer than I expected it to. But I do have everything plugged back in. Luckily, I do have keep everything labeled now. The important thing for me is just to ensure that my USB hubs get plugged back into the exact locations that I unplugged them from. That keeps all of the COM ports, assignments, and everything what they were prior to taking everything apart there. So,
Oh, you mean that duck one? Wait, Sam, you don't use these? Just
You gotta save them all and get them to the
thing.
center, yeah.
Place it.
I think I may have forgot to plug the network cable in. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and power on this back display, then we'll power on the front display, and then we'll start up the computer. And then, once everything is booted up, we'll go ahead and head inside of the cabin, because we're going to need to do some configuration and screen configuration and calibration to get everything to look properly on the rear display. Okay, let's head to the inside there. Alright, I apologize for everyone's patience. I'm learning several things about OBS here. One of the things I found out is the various ways of manipulating an image source. So, bear with me, let me untangle my headset here. One of the things I've come to find out, what I thought was a limitation is no longer a limitation for me, because the GoPro webcam software in and of itself is very, very limited with what we're able to do with it. But OBS will allow me to manipulate certain things to an extent. So being able to rotate the image in OBS, I am able to effectively mount the camera on the ceiling upside down, which gives me a lot more positions. So that's kind of one of the other things we'll be fiddling with, is trying to find a good vantage point for the GoPro as well. Because, you know, we do have you know, we don't want to poke holes if we don't have to. So I want to make sure that it's secure to the ceiling. So I'm currently attempting utilizing some of the existing holes that we have here from some of these existing screws. Just not sure how well it's going to, you know, all work out. Oh, where is... This must be the dead remote. I was trying to change the lighting color, but I think I have the dead remote. Okay, so here we are with 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to take you down for a minute here, and we'll turn around here. We can see our fourth display is powered on, and we do have a background image. So that in and of itself is going to be important. Let's go ahead and okay, we'll keep you pointed over here at this display for now. Okay, sorry for kind of the crude viewpoint here, but what needs to happen is the first and foremost, let's go into NVIDIA control panel and ensure that we have our video card detected. Let's see. May not show it because I don't have anything connected to it here. Processor. Okay, it is showing up here in the physics selection, so it is being recognized, and there it is, there on in our control panel. Okay, so we're good here. Let's go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2. Let's identify 1. It's a back 1. Okay. Our main one is number 4, our front display is number 3, and our left window is number 2. So if I'm moving my mouse left to right, you know, that gives me, you know, left, front, right, and then behind the back window. Granted, the right window, number 4, is my main X-plane monitor. So that's showing there. That being said, let's go ahead and close that out. I'm going to take the HDMI cable that's plugged into this GT1030 unit, and I'm going to plug that into the 1030. Let me do that, and let's see what happens. about that. We did have a desktop background that shows up right there. Totally 78. Welcome on in, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Yep, we are definitely getting it all closed up. She's getting there. Um, she is definitely getting there. We gotta finish off our A pillars at some point. We'll get the air vents installed. We'll discuss how that happens. But yep, she's just about there. Okay, so we got our rear display in. So let's. Okay, we need to go into our NVIDIA control panel. Now that we'll be able to see our GT1030, and we need to tell it where it's located, which it is. Let's identify that, number 5. Okay. Tell you what, that looks good right there. It's putting it directly below our front display, so that'll work out. That'll give me an idea. Okay, that'll work out great. So I'm good with that. And it is recognized as an MS Telematica M-Star demo. Okay. So we're good there. Now what I need to do is exit out of Immersive LCD Pro that's running in the background, because when it starts afresh and anew, it's going to read the current display configuration from NVIDIA. But before I do that, I need to map this display as my touch monitor. So let me go into control panel. Let's go to large icons, pen and touch. Okay. Settings, that's not what I want. No, I want tablet PC settings. Okay, tablet PC settings first. Configure your pen and touch displays. Set up. Tap this screen with a single finger to identify it as the touch screen. If this is not the tablet PC screen, press enter to move to the next screen. Then to close the tool, press escape. So I'm going to press enter until this message appears on my GTN 650 display. And then I'm going to tap it. There it is. So that is recognized as my touchscreen. And now I need to go into pen and touch settings and ensure that enable press and hold for right clicking is disabled. Okay. So now we have our 650 in the mix. Let's go ahead and open up Immersive LCD Pro. It automatically runs in the background. We'll show the graphical user interface. Let me maximize this just to make it a bit easier to see. And essentially what it's doing is it's giving me a mirror image of what NVIDIA control panel is seeing. And this isn't by no means going to be a full tutorial, but I'm just kind of trying to explain things as I go here, because I am going to be doing a totally separate tutorial, just starting from scratch. But the idea here is to tell the software which displays will get warped and which ones do not get warped. So we know that we have our left one here. We're assigning it. It's one LCD screen, so it's getting a 1x1 display, and we assigned 1x1 across each of our single LCDs.
things that we don't want warped, we're going to right click and hit no LCDs. So that way when we warp our displays, nothing on the no projector assignment is going to get warped by Windows. So we don't want our 650 taking that sort of effect. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, overwrite my current one, simply because I know that this particular setting is how we're going to have it. Now what I'm going to do is open up LCD Designer, which is sort of like a program within this program. This is not like a separate download. You will not get this without Immersive LCD Pro. But the designer is where sort of the magic happens. It starts you off with a fixed point. It's a fixed point. It's just a reference point. But everything is built off of this specific reference point. So without having to do everything from the scratch, I'm going to go ahead and open up my current design that I've been tinkering around with, which is here. Okay. And how I got here was, what I did was I took what would be what would have been our original okay. Nope, this one wasn't it. Nope, that one wasn't it either. Okay, here it is. Before I relocated the simulator most recently, this was my calibration file, which included all of these same displays. They were just in different locations. So I initially started with this one and got rid of this back LCD display because at the time it wasn't hooked up. We were just dealing with these front three. But I saved the initial calibration that I had because it has all of my measurements already for my display here for this back one, because it does, it wants to know the physical width and height of your display, the bezel width and height, because it does take all of that into account. So all I did was I took a picture with my camera phone of the current settings for this back panel, and then I opened up my current design that I've been working with most recently, and then I took that information, I added in a new LCD panel and provided it the information that I took the picture of, which essentially, I'm not going to save that. Here's what I've got. Here's what I've come up with. So we're going to try this. We're going to try this configuration and see how it works out. And again, it's all based on a certain eye point. So for this particular experiment, the eye point chosen is in fact going to be this particular GoPro camera. So it's going to be our fixed eye point that everything is going to be built off of, because ultimately whether I'm half inch up, with whether me personally sitting in here physically, whether I'm looking half inch up, half inch down, left or right, the effect does not bother me as much as if I'm trying to stream, and the horizon breaks because the camera is not in the correct position. So all of my calibrations are in fact done off of what the camera sees, because it sees a lot more accurately and from a fixed point of view than my eyes do. So here's the current calibration file, and we're gonna go ahead and just save this, and we're gonna export this. Actually, we need to do something different. Before we do this, this is very important. Before we export it over to X-Plane, and we totally forgot to do this, we actually need to go into X-Plane itself and apply, tell X-Plane what windows are used for simulator use and which windows are not. So let's open up X-Plane 12 real quick. See, and the reason in our back display right now is still Windows background, because X-Plane is not, recalling that display as to be used as a full flight simulator. So we're going to have to load into X-Plane settings and tell it which displays are being used and which ones are not. So I'm going to click on the settings menu, go in the graphics tab. I know that I want 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of those to be full screen simulators. So go over here where it says unused, we want that to be a full screen simulator. We do not want full screen simulator on this display here. So we're going to make that unused and click done. And then I just like to go back in here and ensure that all of the settings saved, and it did. So now that we've done this, X-Plane has created a multi-view settings file which contains location information for the displays that are being used as a full screen simulator. So let me go ahead and click done, and all I have to do is click quit X-Plane. Okay, so we've done it. We've done our LCD design. We've exported our design over out to a directory. In our case, we don't need to export any MSFS views. We don't use that. I'm just worried about the X-Plane multi-view. Let's export that over to a directory of our choice, which I'm calling it C172 for display. And now we're going to go back into Immersive LCD, and we're going to tell each display which calibration to use. Actually, I wanted to save that somewhere else. Let me go ahead and save this as new display. That way I keep all of the calibration files and LCD design files in the same folder. Okay, so I did that. Let's go ahead and go in here to that folder, start from scratch. So we're going to right click, we're going to tell it an external calibration that we just made with LCD Designer, and we're going to tell it which calibration to use, in which case we have number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So I'm just going to go along and assign each display its appropriate calibration. This is the warping calibration. This is what Windows will warp it to. But then we have to take and tell X-Plane what the information is as well. So had we not gone in to X-Plane and activated that 4th display, that information could have possibly gone to the wrong display. And then again, we have to kind of tell Immersive LCD Pro we need to get these views into X-Plane, and it does that. And you have to select which view per which display over here on the left side, and to be honest, until you know what all of these number strings mean, it's a guessing game. But once you have each one identified, you would know which one it is. So let's apply these 4 views directly to X-Plane. So the next time we start X-Plane, it's going to use those view settings that were just applied. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for now. Immersive LCD, we'll keep that open, minimize that for now. And let's go ahead and open up X-Plane. I am going to start a brand new flight, and I'm going to start it right on the runway threshold at my home airport. And I do that because the runway is a great place for me to check out horizon alignment, because I can look at runway edge lines, then I can look at the grass, the taxiways. So the threshold center line is a great place to check and verify alignment. So we're going to start this flight, and then we're going to have to probably, because it'll probably automatically pop open, but we'll have to drag our GTN650 window over here to our display. And while this is loading, I will be right back with you. Alright, so what you are looking at here, and I'm going to straighten the camera here. This is a totally unwarped view of um, just going based on the numbers that Immersive LCD plugged in for us. When we apply the warping factor, how does that look for us? Looks relatively decent. I do see a bit of a horizon break. So, our front display looks like it needs to come up. Our horizon on our front display needs to come up maybe just about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch to get those horizon lines to meet right there at that A pillar. And what I am looking at specifically is the right side A pillar right over this area. Yeah, it looks good, but we're just a little bit low on the horizon. If I bring my sides down, I think that's going to bring too much of my wing down too. I don't want to do that. I think I want to bring the cowl, the runway, and everything just up just a little bit. Okay, and then we'll kind of turn around here. See if we can't take a look at the back with this camera and its current location. It may be a bit too close, I don't know. Okay, what I want to see is more of... Okay, let's see if we can get where the right window meets the back. Let's see, how are we looking for our runway and horizon line there? Remember, I'm looking for full immersion here, and the more accurately I can get lines and things to join up, the less that stuff bends and breaks when we're flying, and the more realistic that makes your experience. And so, what I could do even, let's see. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. If we were to, and that's not quite long enough, but if we were to take a straight edge, and what we'd want to see essentially is, where it looks like one solid line. And that's where Immersive LCD gets you. Immersive Pro gets you. You don't get a lot of distortion. It virtually eliminates you. Like I kept saying that, we want to put ourselves inside of this 3D model and how accurate I wanted this physical cabin to be. And, with Immersive LCD Pro, we're able to do that because that makes our 3D model almost the exact same size of the measurements that we took. So, and I have ways to go about doing that. I made custom scenery for testing out my calibrations. It goes, it gives me things in increments so that I know if, I see X amount here, I would expect X amount, behind my bezels. And I'm able to do that, and that really helps me to um, dial in the locations of all the displays and the eye point. It is just a long, long time-consuming process to do so, because you gotta imagine, just every time you want to change one thing, you're still every bit of 7 to 8 minutes to really kind of see how your change affects things, which we'll actually go do right now. Um, so let's just keep an eye on that horizon line there, and let's bring this front up some. So I'm going to unwarp the displays from now. Let's just go ahead and Alt 4 out of X-Plane here. And then let's go open up Immersive LCD Configurator. And we wanted the front horizon to come up just a bit. Okay, that horizon line. We didn't want to mess with our sides, and I kind of feel like the back horizontally or vertically, it would be a vertical that would affect our horizon. But I felt like the back looked relatively decent. Um, I just don't know about laterally how well it is until I can actually get moving and I can start using landmarks and things. So let's see here. Okay. Let's try this. Problem is, I started getting saving too many calibrations in one spot. Okay. Panel. this one's it. Okay. Just gonna give it a brand new file name. Okay, now I'm gonna export this. Going to go back into Immersive LCD Pro, assign each display its calibration. Okay, and then assign each calibration its location in X-plane. Then we'll minimize this and go right back into X-plane and resume our flight. Because I need to be in I want to be in the exact same location to get the exact same vantage point that we just had. Well, we're here. In here, we could probably go ahead and install the cabin lighting. The cabin lighting is the same model and type as our the panel lighting is the same model and type as our cabin lighting is. So, and they get recessed in here, so maybe it would be better if I would actually remove that, and we can actually do that back in the hangar, so I can show you that process. Alright, let's get the warping factor in, and let's see how we're looking here. So that looks a little bit better. I can still see just a bit of a break there. So let's bring it up just a little bit more. So I'm gonna F4 back out of here. Open this back up, and we're going to move the front. We want to move the horizon down just a bit. So by telling Immersive LCD Pro that the display is just a little bit higher physically, okay, from our reference point. So we're telling it at so just over 6.5 inches higher than our reference point. It will calculate that new view, which brought that horizon down just a little bit. So we'll need to know. Yeah. So let's go ahead and save this, and then export this new view settings. Go back into LCD Pro. Tell it which calibrations to use. And you can just kind of see how getting it dialed in, perfectly to where you want it can get rather time consuming.
I shouldn't use their thing.
See if we can't find our 650 window as well once we load in here. So as long as this viewpoint looks somewhat decent, we'll call it good for now and do some fine tuning um, in the times to come. I want to ensure that the 650 is working and debug anything that may not be working correctly with it. Alright, let's enable the window warping factor. Let's see how we're doing here now. Okay, so now my horizon's a bit too low. So I need to bring that back up. And it won't go quite as high. So we went 0.5, which seemed to give me a more drastic change than I wanted. So I might go, 0.1 up from the original setting, which would only be, like 1/10 of an inch. But it doesn't take much to throw that horizon line off either. Okay, let's go ahead and F4 back out of here. We were at 6.0. So let's try, and I moved it to 6.5, so let's try 6.1. That's going to shift our horizon back up. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and save that and export that. And again, tell it where to find the calibration file for each display. And then tell X-Plane where each calibration file needs to go. Applied for X-Plane views. Let's go ahead and fire up X-Plane. If this looks halfway decent, we'll go ahead and get gauges and everything fired up and go for a flight. Ironman 210, appreciate that. Welcome aboard. Okay, let's check this out now. Let's enable our screen warping and see how that looks. Alright, I can live with that. Yeah, I can live with that for now. That seemed to bring that horizon line down. But again, what I'm looking for, if I'm looking that way, if I take a straight edge, you know, I want that to be a nice, kind of a nice straight line. You know, same with our taxiway and our tree line. That's the immersion that I'm looking for when I'm looking around. Um, Ironman 210, good questions. A lot of it I did build, a lot of it is purchased. A lot of the flight controls, since I want them to be FAA approved, are already approved by the FAA. So a lot of it is virtual flight components, but a lot of it is also done by myself. The whole thing is hand built as far as the frame and everything else. This is actually part 13 of the rebuild process. So welcome on in, welcome to the channel. My name is Michael. So I think that looks a lot better. Horizon line doesn't seem to break now that I'm looking at it. How are we looking along the back here? So another thing we need to consider, take into account. So let's go ahead and turn our attention over this way. See, make sure we're flowing good. Okay, that doesn't look too bad there. For being part of our 3D model, our back seats seem to blend in pretty naturally. Now we're able to actually physically check our flight controls. You know, so when that's on our checklist here, elevator and rudder. But the 3D seats seem to fit our model just fine. Turning and looking back, it doesn't seem to be a detraction. In fact, I brought them back into the model. I had removed them originally, but I did bring them back in just to see how they would look now that we are physically true to life size, and I don't think they look horrible at all. It actually looks a bit more realistic than me to turn around and see the runway behind me. So, yeah, that looks good. Horizon looks good. Let's go ahead and kind of straighten you up this way. The right way. Yeah. Okay. Alright, that will work. Outstanding. Let's go ahead and get her back to the ramp, and we'll go ahead and do a full short flight. We got everything accomplished I set out to do today. So rear display's in, video card is in. I mean, we're coming along together. Still need to get a vinyl applied to these A pillars here, and get the glare shield lights in. It may have to be a project for tomorrow, though. For now, let's go ahead and get her a lap in the pattern here. Let me go ahead and relocate us over to the ramp, and we'll just take it from the top. Change location. We're going to use my home parking spot. We're going to bring in live weather. And we're going to make it today. And we'll make it dusk. And while that is loading, I'm going to step out and start up the flight instruments and controls and gauges and all that fun stuff.
Caution, too slow. Caution, too slow.
Papa, can you get how do you play other games on the PlayStation? Because mommy has a few games. Only a few. How do you play other games?
I will be right back with you all in just a moment.
Do you have any?
What is your question, Bob?
Well, this weather is certainly not the most conducive for VFR flying, is it? Let me take a look at our closest weather here. Winds at 050 at 12, visibility 10, overcast at 7,000, temperature poor, dew point 0, 29067. Let's go ahead and wind the clock back just a little bit. All right. We need our 650. So let me go up here to plugins, Reality XP, GTN, show window. Plugins, Reality XP, GTN, GTN1, pop out window. And that should let me move it down to here. And maximize it. So my 650 should pop up here. Okay. We are here in the ramp. Let's go ahead and connect to VATSIM. We have Columbus approach online. So we'll bug my buddy Steven and grab some flight following to somewhere. So let me get things set up here real quick, and we're just gonna run a full flight from the top here. Give me just a second to do a couple additional things. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. I wanted to make sure I had everything in order before we decided to go here. So welcome aboard Felicity. My name is Michael and I will be your pilot today. Short flight plan, we're just going to take a quick hop from Fort Indianapolis, Morrow County. We're going to head over to Delaware Municipal, Delta Lima Zulu, just for a short quick test flight. Testing out the new view settings, whatnot. Alright, let's go ahead and connect to the VATSIM network here. And we are, okay. 125.95 is CMH approach. Okay. Let's get some switches on. Get some flaps down. Do a quick walk around. Baggage door secure. Left rudder cables tight. Elevator rudder look good there. Anti-collision light and beacon are working. Right rudder cables tight. Flaps tight on the right. Right aileron green on the right with the strobe is working. Right main looks good. Front main looks good. Strut looks good. Exhaust is secure. Prop and spinner look good there. Static source is free and clear. Pitot tube is warm to the touch. Let's get our pitot heat off. Taxi light and landing light are both working. Let's get these off. And stall horn was working. We have a strobe on the left. Let's get those off. And our nav lights off as well. Left flap is tight. Left main looks good. And fuel caps are installed and streamlined. Let's go ahead and get our bird started up here. Let's get this master off for now. Beacon is still on. Okay. Your seatbelt works just like your seatbelt in your car does. Male portion of the buckle slides into the female portion. When you hear that click, you know that's secure. The air vents are on the top left and top right of the plane here. Feel free to rotate them up or down or push them in. Just don't have them aimed directly at your microphone. The air rushing past the intercom can interfere. And if you can't hear yourself talk, then I can't hear yourself talk. Fire extinguisher is located directly behind us. You exit the plane the same way you got in, the door on the right and the door on the left. If you do happen to see any airplanes while we were up in the sky this evening, please feel free to go ahead and point them out. And if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask before we get things started up here. Okay. Master's gonna go on, beacon on, mixer's gonna go rich. Let's go ahead and get 3 on the primer. 1, 2, 3. Okay, primer is in and locked. Brakes on. Okay. Clear prop. We're clear left, clear right, clear front, and mags to start. Here we go. Right away, I'm looking for oil pressure and RPM. If I don't have either of those, I'm shutting it down. Clear. Alright, we do have engine rotation and oil pressure is in the green. Let's go and get our landing light on and taxi line on so that we can be seen for safety. Okay. That does complete our startup checklist. Pre-taxi. Seatbelt. Seatbelts are on. Flaps are gonna go up. Okay. What else we got? Avionics going on. Okay, there's our 650 coming alive. Continue, continue. So touchscreen is responding. We are on Unicom. Columbus approach 125.905. Let's get that on standby. And let's go ahead and get 124.6 on standby in COM 2. That is CMH ATIS. Okay. Tabletop Android, welcome in. We are getting ready to go on a short hop, kind of test everything out here. Checking out the view settings, making sure your viewpoint and vantage point is adequate for things at hand. Because it's important. Okay, flaps, avionics, ATIS, altimeter. I'm going to set my altimeter to known field elevation here. Right about there, 29er64. And Marion's local weather, 29er67, so that's pretty good. Okay, transponder, let's get that on. Spark mode Charlie. And ADS-B is tied into our nav lights, so let's get those on. We've got green on the right, red on the left. Okay, heading indicator to compass. Go ahead and get that set up there. We'll double check that when we get close to the runway. Winds out at Marion, we're 050 that way. We'll take a look at our windsock. That looks like it's going to confirm it. Let's get parking brake off, manual brakes on, do a manual brake test. Here we go. Brakes are working. Alright. Yep, windsock does confirm it. So probably 10. Alright, we are in Unicom. 10 final looks clear. Moore County traffic, Skyhawk 8033 Foxtrot, back taxi 10 Morrow. Let's stop here, make sure nobody else calls in. Runway's clear. 10 final approach is clear. We're clear to back taxi. Double check heading indicator to compass.
Approaching runway 1, entered runway 10, 3,000 feet remaining.
Double check heading indicator to compass. Now that we're away from all those metal buildings. Don't mind me, I'm trying to watch the VOD and make sure. Alright, I think I need to check something. And I'm also going to roll the clock back just a little bit. So we might lose the GoPro feed for just a minute, but I will be right back. And I'm gonna wind this clock back down. So I think part of my issue is that that we're actually trying to stream at 60 FPS, and I don't know how it got bumped up there, unless OBS did some sort of update and changed it. But in order for me to reduce it back down, then I'd have to disconnect and start a whole new thing. So I apologize for the choppiness and quality loss of the GoPro live feed. And I think as a result, might just do one here in the pattern and see what happens. No mouth but must stream. I think it was the mic that got no, you said electric, not detented. So the Foxtrot has electric flaps, I do know that much. Or at least the 1965 model does. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, I can only imagine that's why all that flashing and stuff is at the top too. Because that's... I don't see that out of the front forward-facing camera. That could just be yeah, I'll have to investigate that. So I do apologize that we're experiencing that. So we're just going to do one here in the pattern, and then I'm probably going to call it a night. Let's go ahead and do a quick run-up. Right here. Okay. Into the wind. Looks good there. Okay, brakes are on. Fuel is on both. Trim is set for takeoff. I do like to pull back on the elevator and visually confirm it with my trim tab. Down on the right, up on the left, down on the left, up on the right. Elevator, rudder are true and responsive. Okay, brakes are on, everything's looking good. 1600 RPM. Left mag, there's a drop. Back to both. Right mag, there's a drop. Back to both. Carpete on, there's a drop. Carpete off. Okay, we do have that crosswind at a 050 we need to be into account for. Suctions in the green, oil pressure, oil temperature look good. We've got good fuel flow. We are charging. Everything looks good. Let's idle back and check our throttle friction. That feels good there. Let's get our strobe lights on. And we'll go ahead and announce our intentions. Yes, tabletop Android. I was just discussing that that there's something going on with the GoPro. I'm gonna have to look into that and figure out. So again, I do apologize, and that's why we're cutting our flight short today. Morrow County, Skyhawk 8032 Foxtrot, taking 10 left close traffic, Morrow. Alright, we got that crosswind. Let's go ahead and put some wind correction in. Grab that center line. Hold that rudder pedal for center. Get full power in there. Alright, airspeed's coming alive. Let's get ready to go neutral. And rotate. Positive rate. Keep that crab in there. Stay over the runway. And let's climb out to 80. What I'm trying to do through all the GoPro shenanigans is watch the horizon and see if it's breaking any during our bank angle. I'm looking for 1,800 feet before I make my crosswind. So there is a little bit of break during some of the banking. Not much, but it's a little bit. Alright, I'm going to lift my left wing, make sure it's clear. Morrow County, Skyhawk 8033 Foxtrot, left crosswind, 10 Morrow. That's fine, Steven. Due to my technical issues with the GoPro or CMH approach, we're just going to stay right here in the pattern. Because I'm going to have to say goodnight anyway. Alright, 2100 is pattern altitude. Field is just off to our left here. I'm going to pull the power back, don't need to be going so fast. Our airspeed 105 miles per hour right now. Alright, here we are midfield. Morrow County, Skyhawk H033 Foxtrot, midfield, left downwind, 10, full stop, Morrow. Right, beam the numbers, show times, get power to 1600. Carpete on. Flaps 10 degrees, 1000, 1000. And let's pitch for 80 miles per hour. And we got that wind coming in from 050. I'm going to lift my left wing, make sure it's clear. Roll the left base. Morrow County, Skyhawk 8033 Foxtrot, turning left base, 10 Morrow. I'm going to have to debug the GoPro issue. That's annoying. It's annoying me, I'm sure it's annoying you all, and I do greatly apologize. Flaps 2. Morrow County, Skyhawk 8033 Foxtrot, left base to final approach, 10, full stop, Morrow. And that wind pushed us quite a bit. Shall we try and slip and dip it in there? Rudder for center. Drive it like a car to the center line there. Keep that wind correction in. That was beautiful. For what it was. Alright, let's get across this line here, and now it's clear. Taxi back to the ramp, shut down, I gotta say goodnight. Morrow County, Skyhawk 8033 Foxtrot is clear, 10, taxi to the ramp, Morrow. Alright, flap's gonna go up, strobe's coming off. I totally was not having any sort of wind correction put in during that taxi roll, and I totally should have. Yeah, KW for life, that's why we're calling everything short tonight. I gotta figure out what's up with the GoPro. I don't know if it's a USB power issue or not. So I'm gonna have to look into that. So I'm gonna expedite shutdown here. Parking brake on. Turn all of our lights off except our beacon. Avionics gonna go off. G5's gonna go off. Flaps are up. Mixture's gonna go rich. Mags master. Alright, let's disconnect from vent sim and head back to the hangar real quick, and then I gotta say goodnight.
I need to apologize for our video live feed malfunction coming from the GoPro in the cabin there. I'm gonna have to debug that. I don't know if it's a power supply issue getting to the camera itself. So I'm gonna do some testing offline. I'm gonna reduce that stream output down to 30 from 60. I don't know if that'll help out at all. You know, it'll keep the CPU from processing as much, which might free up some resources for the GoPro. I'm not sure. But I'm going to try and get that debugged. Meanwhile, I do want to say thank you all for coming in this evening and hanging out. Went a bit longer than I expected to, but that's alright. I appreciate each and every one of you taking some time out to come in. We did get some stuff accomplished. We got the rear display installed. We got the screen pretty much calibrated mostly, I think. Got the new video card installed for the 650. So yeah, the interiors come together real nicely. I think the next thing we will do is work on the air vent installation and get all of that plumbed into the blower. Yeah, hopefully the brief display discussion answered any of those YouTube questions. I'll try and touch base in person on those specifically here shortly. But yeah, it's older technology that I use. It's LED technology, 60 hertz. Nothing real fancy per se as far as the displays go. So I think that is it for me for this evening. Part 14 again will probably be the air vent installation. We'll finish vinyling the interior, make it look all pretty, and start wrapping some things up, putting on some finishing details, and move along to the exterior. But yeah, we're getting down there to the finishing touch. Next Sunday is a big day for me, so definitely got to be ready by then. So Ireland, here we come. So that being said, I hope you all take care and stay safe. Take care of each other. I think that's always important. I appreciate your patience while I deal with this tailbone injury and moving around a bit slower. But I do want to thank you all again for coming into the channel and working around some of the technical difficulties as well with our streaming camera. So have a great evening. I'll try and see you all tomorrow at some point. I cannot say when specifically. But until the next time, like I said, take care, and let's go see who we can say hi to. I want to go and raid Columbus Approach, who's controlling the Columbus Tracon right now. So again, thank you all for coming in. It's been my pleasure. Learning and sharing as well. So air vents will be next, and we'll finish vinyling the interior so that we don't see any of that wooden frame along our A-pillars, and then we'll get our grab handles installed on the A-pillars, and that should relatively finish things up. Other than some minor details that we'll probably have to discuss in the continuing part. So, again, thanks for coming in and hanging out. Let's go say hi to Columbus Approach. My name is Michael. It was my pleasure chit-chatting. If you have any questions, email me n8033f@gmail. YouTube channel n8033fox flight simulation, or Twitch. Even in the Discord. But Discord is probably the best place to reach me. So, okay. have a great evening, and we will see you next time. And let's go and say hello to Columbus Approach. Good night, everyone.